There we go. We are live.
We
Hello.
are. Hey, say 2 weeks in a row, or whatever, our bi-weekly thingy.
Our bi-weekly, as long as we know that that means every 2 weeks. Yep. Let's not get
Yeah,
confused.
that's a confusing term. That can
It
be
is.
twice a week or every 2 weeks. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're on a roll, two in a row, because yeah, we have non-conflicting schedules.
Indeed.
So,
So, topic
by the way, I
today.
liked I liked the gift that you had added to this, the whole living rent-free in my house. I'm like, yeah, I like this. But it's not quite right for me because I live rent free in my own head. I don't need somebody else's voices inside here to make it weird.
See, when things are building up in my head, often it is the other voices that are contributing to things that make it feel even more insurmountable. So that's going to be interesting as we go
Okay.
through
Okay,
this
so you've
conversation.
got people in your head. I don't have any of those people. Maybe I'm too much of a self-involved narcissist that it's just only my voices in my head. Um, All right, so here I'll give you the lowdown on why I wanted to bring this up, and it was like the only thing that was really coming up in my head, um, because it feels like I've been living a lot in my head, um, and I don't know if maybe us people can help me out with this because I kind of feel like this is a place I go a lot. Um, And it doesn't matter what the situation, it could be an upcoming evaluation, could be a conversation I need to have, could be a meeting I'm about to have. I will like repeat and recite things over and over and over again in my head. And so almost like I'm like practicing what I'm going to say, right?
Running
Um,
those scenarios.
yeah, and then I start playing it. So then that leads to the scenarios like, okay, so I need to have this conversation with my buddy. We haven't spoken in like 2 years. So I'll give you this story along with it. So I was uh I had this great idea that I wanted to go on like a little boys trip, right? So just me and some college buddies go do a thing. And Julie's like, yeah, yeah, you do you. That's awesome. So I picked a couple of dates. I threw it out there, but I've been dragging my feet for weeks to like really set it in stone. And I kind of realized that, okay, I mean, this is something I want to do, but I haven't really like asked them if they're okay with it. Like, it's just this is my idea. And then I started like playing in my head. Okay, so do they want to? Like, I should really be asking. I should ask. Okay, so then I like practicing asking. And then I started like, oh, what are we going to talk about? We haven't talked in like 2 years. Like, I just go through all of this stuff. It's noisy up there. I know it's noisy. And then, so I know this is all wasted energy, but for whatever reason, I still go through the same process. And then, of course, I have the conversation, and within like a minute, like you settle in, and everything's normal, and he starts cracking jokes, and you're playing off his jokes, and it's great, it's fine. Like it's good. It's like we picked up exactly where we left off 2 years ago, which is the same thing that happens every time we get together. So why
Interesting
don't
that your brain doesn't pick up on that history and play that
Yeah,
record.
yeah, so I've got lots of tapes that I can play, right? Like put them in the old VCR, right? But yeah, my tapes are old and they don't remember the old ones. They only play the new hits. And
Right.
I
The
I
new
don't
the
I
new
don't know.
anxiety hits.
Oh my
Mm.
God, there's just so much extra energy that is unsupportive.
And unsupported also, right? And where's the evidence to support the yes, okay, yep,
None.
I'm with you.
None. And if I go, and I remember like as a when I was like 13 years old or whatever, and girls started getting interested, and you start having conversations with people. And I remember like the first few times that I would like talk, I didn't know what I needed, so I'd make like a little list, like a little, just
Oh,
yeah, like a conversation starters. It's so bad.
oh,
It's
breaking the
so
ice with
bad.
the girls.
But I mean but it never mattered what was written because after you got started, it just went. Like and it was always fine. More often than not, it was fine, unless there was like no interest. But I mean, it was so I don't know why I go there, and I'd like not to go there. I'd like to
Hmm.
play a different story, or not play a
Yeah.
story at all, and just set an intention for the conversation and just let it happen.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Because I know that you do that approach for many other things in your life. And so isn't that fascinating when it gets down to something that's a little feels a little closer to home for you personally? And you wonder how much is like there sounds like there's fear that comes into that,
For sure.
like fear of what the outcome will be, which of course we can't predict anyway and we can't control. Oh, we've had these
Rejection,
conversations before.
awkwardness, yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah. So look, I my observation is that we all suffer this. We just express it in slightly different ways. So when you suggested building it up in your head, now I have mentioned my interesting dynamics that I have with my siblings in the past, and that dynamic has not really changed. And I have one sibling who is relatively close, lives in the same city here, and so see her just that little bit more often than the others.
Mhm.
Great. Um, she was dropping around. We were going to go have brunch. Oh my goodness. The
You're choking up just
the
talking about
I am. I noticed that. I've coughed twice. Isn't that interesting? Um, the hesitation that I had about how much do I reveal, how much do I tell her, is she actually going to be interested? Because this seems to be only an interest every 6 months, and I don't know that she really cares, like really, who never had any. This is the story I'm telling myself,
it.
just I'm well aware of this. Um, there's never been any interest in the past, so why would they be interested now? What's the actual intention? I wonder what the purpose is. All of those things go on in my head. Now, when I say I had other people's voices going on in my head, suddenly, when one sister reaches out to me, the other two sisters' voices start.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a whole sibling gathering, and no one's even turned up yet. Um, because it for me it goes to, oh well, if the older sister was here, what would she do? Oh, I know how she'd speak about this. Oh yeah, okay, I could channel her a little bit, and then and so I have a whole lot of things playing out in what would be the best thing to do here. And quite honestly, um it's exhausting, and then actually dealing in the real time is a little exhausting as well, because it not just because of the person and the dynamic, but actually what build up I have contributed to that event. So I'm so mentally tired before I even get to the brunch. No wonder I'm exhausted at the end of the brunch. If I just went in there and allowed my energy to just focus on what I was dealing with in that dynamic just on its own, I wouldn't be so exhausted. But I was exhausted at the end of that visit, let's call it a visit, um, simply because of the way that I built up what I should do, what I shouldn't do, what impact was that thing going to have when I said it. Oh, what was the reaction? I don't know if that was the good reaction. Oh, I'm constantly analyzing.
Did it play out differently than you anticipated?
Um, no, not really. But I wasted more energy than I needed to. Um, and I, the other thing I noticed that I did in that particular circumstance is I tend to default on the negative rather than defaulting on what went really well. So even when you ask that question, I notice that that's what my brain is doing.
Hmm.
I immediately go to, well, no, it didn't go as well, when as expected, but it's in a negative version of that rather than the, well, what surprised me was. because for some reason my system, I'm gonna call them beliefs because I think that's where they sit,
Sure.
is that I believe that that situation is going to turn out the same way every single time. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be exhausting. I'm going to be uncertain. Oh, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that is listed in amongst that.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's interesting that my belief doesn't default to the positive or the what was the goodness out of that interaction. And in actual fact, there was goodness out of that interaction. We had a little bit of things in common that we could share about. She is getting married about 4 weeks after Angel, so we had a whole lot of wedding sharing that we did. And recently there was a school reunion, um, like a 50-year anniversary for our school. And there was some goodies that had been purchased and was being handed over to me, even though I couldn't go because I was up north in Cairns. Like there was all these lovely things that actually happened due to this interaction.
Is that your go-to though? Nor, regardless if you've spent a lot of time going into any situation, is it always the negative that is the focal point, or
For that particular scenario, it is for me.
is
Um,
that family stuff, or is that
that's
anything?
family stuff. Yeah. Um, but I did notice that I added to it because
Mm,
even if that's so there's a couple of layers there for me, I think. One is that there's some beliefs there that could change. That could be handy and more helpful. And the other one is that and that would help the not feeling like it's negative all the time. And then the other thing is that not having all the extra contribution beforehand, because even if it is true that it's harder, because it's not the most comfortable situation, even if that remains true,
mm.
if I don't shift that belief yet, I could also bring a lot more lighter energy, a lot more lighter approach to that circumstance. And yet I didn't.
That would likely change the outcome a little bit too. Not maybe not drastically, but at least in the way that you're taking
That I come
on.
out the other side,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, yeah,
Going
so
into
that
the
was
tunnel with a light instead of.
instead of, oh, I still can't find my way out of this. Um, yeah. So it can do damage kind of at the front of the in the build up
Hmm.
and potentially can do damage in the situation itself, right? Interesting with your build up and your questioning everything prior. Great that you got into the swing of it and it was like it was when you picked up from 2 years ago and all of that. Was there anything else you noticed in it, or it just all shifted for you once you got to that point?
It was probably like a little internal beat up, like what's wrong with you? Like knock it off.
Yeah.
Like this is the way that it always goes, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong here. Um, there's I mean there's always a little bit of awkwardness because you've had like such a gap between conversations, but it's not that bad.
No, and we tend to, I mean, I find when I catch up with a girlfriend from school, it's interesting because I know that I've got all these filters and I see her as the 17-year-old, not as the 50-something-year-old. Um, or the 20-something, and we're both so different now, but yet we both look through those filters at each
Mm.
other. And so that's where it can be a bit, you've got to try and get the reality going, which can be a little bit, it can take a little bit of time, but otherwise the awkwardness does seem to dissipate quite easily.
Yeah, I mean I think there's a reason that we connected even way back when. So, and we've continued to maintain friendship through the years. There's a connection there, right? So,
And we've got to trust in that connection.
yeah, I think that's it. And it's weird too because people who come to me and pay me money to get help with stuff. And and
Same.
they will often ask me like how they should approach a conversation. And my go-to every time is that for them to be really clear on setting an intention on what they want out of the conversation, how they want to be in the conversation, how they want to show up in that conversation. And that's the kind of thing I want them to do the preparation on, not necessarily the questions they want to ask or the things they want to talk about, but how do you want to be? How do you want to show up? How do you want to present and what do you want out of it? So you're clear when you go in that this is what you're looking for, and then you'll know if you got it when you got out.
And isn't it lovely when we give others advice and then we need to,
I am
you
so
know,
good at my
turn it
job.
back on ourselves?
I am a shit client though. How about that? To
Oh,
myself, to myself, to myself.
well, this is the thing but it's also handy when you get to say that many times to other people because you do hear it for yourself. We've just got to remember to apply it. And I think that's the challenge, isn't it? It's the application. We can know something, but actually applying it.
I think
So
sorry,
yeah.
so sorry. I think there's one twist in here for me that like that all makes sense and the intention, and I think I'm pretty good at doing that. It's the duration of time I spend ruminating in the possibilities outside of the intention that I want to have with that person or those people or whatever the thing is. It's the amount of time I spend in my head just twirling with the thoughts and ideas and whatever.
And one of the ways that let's just move the family dynamic to one side because that seems to have a little bit more complexity to it for me. But generally speaking, if I'm building something up in my head and I'm having trouble getting outside of it, I've got a couple of things in the last couple of weeks where those intrusive thoughts have kind of just been popping into my head, and then I've been worrying more than I need to
Mm,
because that's the same thing, right? For me, that feels like the same thing. I'm worried about how that will play out. I find when I speak to myself out loud, it makes a difference. So if
mm,
I hear that intrusive thought and then I just go, oh, stop it. This is how you want to think about it. And I say it out loud. The outside voice becomes louder than the inside voice.
mm,
And that way I can help quieten it down and see which one I want to pay attention to. So that's a technique that I use when those voices or the worry or the I'm thinking about something that really doesn't need the energy. And if I've got enough presence of mind to stop thinking about it, that's how I stop myself
mm.
from going there. Because often this is bit of a silent thing that happens, right? It's
It's
all
loud in here,
internal.
but I understand what you're saying.
Nobody else really knows that we're doing all of that
No.
individually inside
Not
our own
not
heads.
unless you voice it. Not unless you like open up and share what you're going through. Which I mean, that's what a lot of people are doing when they talk to each of us, right? They're getting it out of the noggin and they're getting it out into the open and then they can hear it for themselves and have it picked apart by you or I or whatever. So
And then make sense of it and go, oh yeah, that was just okay. I don't have to think like that anymore. That's just not
that's
very
not helpful.
purposeful. Yeah. But yeah, getting that outside is really important. I mean, I'd like people to realize that everyone does this, that everyone has the voices in their head, no matter how confident someone is appearing, no
Mm,
matter how together they appear. I guarantee you that my sister had more going on in her head than I did because she has this assumption that I have it all together.
mm.
She should watch my Facebook lives a little more often, I think. And so she would have had even more going on. because I know she thinks I have it all sorted. And so she has to do so much more effort to, and I can hear it in the way that she describes things and she justifies things and she wants me to tell her what an amazing job she's done. And so we all have it, but she wouldn't realize that I have exactly the same thing going on. So often when we see others that seem to have it all together, they really don't.
We did a workshop, myself and a couple of partners, 2 weeks ago, and it was on the inner voice. It was on the little voice in their head. So Um, it wasn't my baby, but it's something that I've heard several times, and it was really cool to hear the other people engage and realize that okay, it's not just me. I'm not alone in this. We all have active voices, but how do you tamp it down? And what's really going on when you have the voice? And yeah, it was just that. I think that knowing that you're not alone in this is really helpful.
Definitely. We've it allows it to be okay. Um, if you're not the only one. It's really hard when you feel like it might be just you.
Hmm.
So yes, voices in our head all the time. And it makes it really, anytime I've had a build up in my head about something, it's never turned out the way that I have predicted ever. I I will run maybe not as many checklists as you do or scenarios as you do, but I do run a fair few.
Not a competition.
And and all of those scenarios, it's never usually that. I mean, I did a little bit of a build up when I presented recently, and it was a new environment. I had new PowerPoint presentation. I wanted to make sure that the story I did was spot on. Like I had all that intention set and I built up all of this. Oh, and then it was all switched up because the people that were in the room were really different to the ones that actually were in the that I thought would be in the room. And then recently, literally a week ago, all of those recordings of every presentation that was made at that convention has been released so that every attendee, whether they are in the room or not, can get access to those recordings.
Mhm.
So people have now come back and said, "Oh, I had a listen to your presentation. And by the way, thanks very much. And I'm going to give you a LinkedIn recommendation because I got this and this out of it."
Yes.
I, I did not include that in my scenario in the build up. And what a lovely outcome that I never could have predicted. I
And
did
I
that
think
presentation on this like 2nd of May and it's now July and I get that outcome. We never know the outcomes.
uh,
And yet,
no. And I think that's the brilliance with the setting of the intention but without holding an expectation to the result that's going to happen. But my brain doesn't go there when I'm in the stressful, anxious zone trying to figure that stuff out. Um, but maybe if I got it out of my head and
and
then
what about you looked at evidence of what's come before or what you would like it to be? So, like, we can create evidence.
Mhm.
So, we often will default to evidence that's happened before. So, I've done that in
It's only
my,
ever bad evidence, by the way.
is there any other? No. Ah, so, what if we created evidence, positive evidence, to help support the intention?
Yeah, that would be good. I had so yeah, so this the same friend that I'm going to see in another month or so. Uh when we visited the last time, it was kind of like pretty spur of the moment thing like, "Hey, let's get together, let's do something." And they turned it into a 25th college anniversary like reunion thing. Because I came. it wasn't because of me, but I think just the effort of going to like see them and to start something without any expectation of it being something, I guess it gave them some ideas and some energy and they just did it. And it was a really like unexpected and amazing result that I could never have even, or I'm not even sure I would have even attempted to try to plan that.
And this is those unexpected outcomes, right? So isn't that interesting? What if you would have used that evidence that this person was obviously gained energy from the fact that you would want to catch up with them
Mhm.
in that example, leading into the new like
It's such a
how
great
cool
idea. I
how
should
cool would that
use
have
that
been?
in the future.
Yeah, yeah. We just forget about creating that positive evidence.
And,
Interesting, isn't it?
and what's sorry, just one other thing. I had this idea like 2 months ago, or at least a month and a half ago, and I've been dragging my feet ever since then, just sending out a text to this person and this person saying, "What do you think of these dates?" And then I would basically ghost them while I'm like just thinking about the stuff.
All the stuff, not even whether those dates are still good or where you were going, just all the stuff.
There were things that had to happen for me to get from where I was to where I ended up, but it didn't need to take me that long with all of that extra ammunition in my head. That didn't help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
get it
stop
out.
building stuff up in our heads.
Get it
Just
out.
stop it.
At least charge rent if you're gonna have space up there.
Yeah, charge rent or find some positive scenarios to back up how you'd like it to be.
Sounds good to me.